My name is Shawn Hooper. My pleasure to be here for my third WPCampus. I am the Director of IT at Canadian-based learning and development platform startup Actionable. And what I want to talk to you about today is the process that we go through for keeping all of our stakeholders in the loop as we develop new features for our platform. Actionable Conversations is our platform. The idea behind it is it's to help teams in workplaces build new habits through continual reminders from the platform that you would sign up for after attending a keynote speech or something like that. So it is a software as a service product. We sell to consultants that are in the change management space, in the HR space. So we are a B2B platform. We are multilingual with users all over the world. We are built API first. The platform itself is a Node.js application, with WordPress being used headlessly as the content delivery with the REST API. And all of the notifications that go out to the users of the platform, asking them to do their daily check-ins on their commitments, these are sent by email and SMS. So that sort of just positions where the platform is that we use. And then we have all sorts of players involved that we have to keep in the loop during the design and development phase right through launch. We have our sales and marketing team. We have our technical support, our help desk that's herding cats, as we put earlier. And our account management people who work with our B2B partners. We have our lawyers who have to be kept in the loop. Our developers, of course. Our DevOps infrastructure people. Our translators, everyone who writes documentation, the consumers of our API that may not be ourselves, our B2B partners themselves, and of course the end users. These are all people that need to know what's coming when you're going to be changing something on your site. And they all need to be brought into the loop at specific parts of development. So we've broken up our development into phases, from concept to design, to development and QA, to documentation and training, and finally to the launch. So in the concept phase, we have a new feature that we want to create. This usually comes from our product leader, who happens to be our founder, or from feedback we get from the users. And at this point, we're going to just wireframe what these screens might look like. Now, neither he or I are designers. We don't know how to make this look pretty. And we're usually drawing them on a glass wall in our co-working space, just as a rough idea of, yeah, I think we could build something like this. This would be kind of neat. So what we'll do is we'll take those wireframes, we'll share them around with some members of our internal team, or maybe to a trusted user or two in our partner group, and see if what it is that we're thinking of building makes sense to them before we go any further into actually detailing out what tasks we might need to undertake. The other thing we want to do at this point is a financial impact analysis if it's required. For example, I said that our platform sends out a lot of text messages. So if we're going to add a new feature to the platform that increases the number of messages that go out, well, there's a financial impact there. In North America, sending a text message is a fraction of a cent per message. But if you're sending a text message in New Zealand, it's 10 cents per message. So the impact could become significant quickly. We're also hosted on AWS. So if what we're going to be adding as new microservices or a bigger database or something like that, our hosting costs could go up. So right at the concept level, you want to take a look and see, is there going to be a financial impact ongoing from adding this new feature and getting those approvals done. Of course, this is 2018, and I've updated my privacy policy. We do want to do a personal data analysis at this point as well. We're going to add new features to the site. Are we going to be collecting new information from the users that is personal information? Do we need to update our end user license agreement? Is there GDPR impacts? Because at this point, if there is, this is when we want to start reaching out to legal right away and seeing if we need to get their assistance, or if for some reason they're going to put a roadblock to that feature ever getting added in the first place. Here's an idea of one of those glass wall wireframes I was talking about. It isn't pretty, but it does the trick. So at this agreed we're going to build a feature, we go into design. Those wireframes are then turned into nicer graphic designs. The screenshots and notes are converted into Jira tickets and Confluence pages for the developers to work with. Confluence we use for the how did we build this and why did we build this explanation stuff that Eric talked about earlier. A bit of documentation is always good. And we also look at other supporting systems. We've built tools that our help desk staff use, for example, to help debug tickets. Is the new feature we're building going to impact those tools? And do we need to get the developers of those products involved in as well? So here's just a screen taken quickly by our graphic designer. And he took our wireframes and turned it into a nicer looking screen that we can then hand off to the developers to build. Using our graphic designer, who we use the same person all the time, helps our screens adhere to corporate standards and has everything look the same, even though our developers are freelancers that might only be involved for short periods of time. Jira tickets, breaking out all the tasks involved in creating that new feature, even if it's just at a high level initially, and then we can build in detailed tickets as we get further into the project. So in the development phase, the wireframes were converted to graphics. But at this point, we also have to worry about collecting the copy that goes on pages. We have to worry about images. We have to worry about video. We have embedded video on some of the pages. The alt tags that we need for those images and videos, transcripts. We need the text for the email notifications, and we need the text for the SMS messages. So we can collect all of that stuff while the feature is actually being built. And of course, all of the tests that go with that feature. In our environments that are not production, so everything from the QA environment to local development environments, we're using test data. This is especially important now in the age of the GDPR and private data, that we don't want to be using production data in local environments because you're moving that outside of the data centers where you've agreed to store the data. So we've developed test data sets that mirror what you would really see in production. And at the same time, we want to be making sure that the infrastructure is being updated to handle these new features, that the continuous integration is still going to support the new features. And if it needs to be updated, have that ready during the development phase and testing that in your staging environments. At this point, we want to have the translators on standby. I'm not going to actually send them the strings that need to be translated yet because they're probably still going to change. But I'm going to have an idea, at least, within a couple hundred words of how many words it's going to be and what the timelines are going to be like, so I can make sure the translators have time available. In the QA phase, we have everything up in staging, and with a limited number of users and with our internal staff, we ask them to go test the feature, see if it's still making sense to them, see if there's any changes they would like to make. At this point, translation's also working, and as soon as translation's ready, then the QA testers who are familiar with those languages can go in and look there. Also, this is the great time to do load testing and security audits of all that code that was written, also doing different vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, anything you can do to make sure that your code is secure when it goes live. Of course, at any point in this, we can still go back to development, make changes, tweaks, and make sure that its features the best it can be. But the stage is critically important, and especially sharing it with people who are outside of the design and development circle, because you're too close to it. Make sure you get that second set of eyes on that feature by someone who's never seen it before. Make sure it still makes sense to them. Then there's the documentation and training stage. So when we know what's going on in QA, we know everything's good, we need to worry about detailed change logs. Those who are really close to the product are going to want to know every single thing that's changed in that release, even if it's a minor little bug fix or a typo. That's what's nice to share in the change logs. Our user guides are PDFs that include screenshots and are how to use this product guides that go out to our partners and their end users. The API documentation for developers who will be consuming data from our API. They need to know if there's new endpoints, if that data is changing, what concerns are there, so that needs to be updated. We need to do training sessions with the people who will be working the help desk, with the sales team, with the key account managers, so that when the product goes live and they're getting phone calls or emails, they know how to explain that new feature without having to come to the development team. And also preparing canned responses for the help desk. We know that when a new feature launches, we're going to see an increase in tickets. So if we can have some responses ready for things that we know might be questions, that saves them time. And also worrying about actually the staffing levels on the help desk as well right after a new release. So there's an idea of just the bullet form release notes, including bug fixes and everything. And then just a piece of the PDF user guide that we sent out that has screenshots included. 2 weeks before a new release goes live, the site is in staging, ideally code frozen. I say ideally because, well, you know, I was working on these slides last night. The documentation and release notes are sent to our partners and support team with the release schedule. Sending this out in advance allows our partners to know what's coming and when it's coming, and to be able to let their end users know and prepare them for that, and also work that into the schedules if they're going to be using the platform for anything within that time period. So giving them a little bit of time to become familiar and ask questions before that feature goes live. And then finally, we have launch. The site goes live, ideally in off-peak hours. Of course, working in a global market, that's a very short window sometimes. And then updating the client-facing user guides that are on our public websites to have those guides that we share directly 2 weeks prior, putting those up on the site. And having then the support team also go in and look at all the bug tickets that we may have had open or feature requests that have been open and sitting on hold for a future release. And replying back to those users and saying, thank you for that feature you requested, 2 months ago. It's been added to the platform. And just closing the loop on those tickets. And in keeping that entire life cycle going then, we have everyone internally from staff right up to the end user base who are now kept in the loop throughout the design and development phase and able to provide their input at the right time. And so, thank you. I hope that gives you an idea of how we work.